First time I met Prabhupada was in Honolulu, 1972, when Prabhupada came to the temple to visit. And I don't remember very much. I was very new to ISKCON and pretty spaced out. But I do remember a couple of points. Well, one in particular. And that was that when Prabhupada sat down to chant Jaya Radha Madhava, I was just amazed at how spiritually powerful it was. And I just had this feeling like this is it, I'm blasting off right now. I'm going to the spiritual world right now. Before that, I had no understanding really of who Prabhupada was. I only knew through the books and through his disciples and through the mantra, but I didn't have any concept of Prabhupada as a person. And there he was in person. It was fantastic. The very first thing I read that Prabhupada had written was a line in one of his books that said, "This world is a world of birth, death, disease, and old age." And my immediate reaction was, finally somebody is telling me the truth. I had experimented with so many things, materialism, LSD, Buddhism, Christianity, so many things. But this nobody had said. Also impersonalism I'd experimented with. But nobody had said this, and I thought, wow, finally, that's the reality. That's the hard truth. That was really convincing. And then I got sort of accidentally caught up in a kirtan, at the end of which I had this distinct realization that the body and the soul are different. I had never before in any other way had that experience, had that realization or that perception. And so I was intrigued, to say the least. But I was still a little bit skeptical. And I thought, if this mantra is really what it seems to be, then there must be a really extensive philosophy behind it. And so I wanted to study the philosophy. But there weren't many books in those days. This was 1971. And besides that, I'd already given all my money to the devotees and they didn't have any money left to buy any books. So there are a lot of other factors involved, but to make it short, I phoned up the temple president. I'd never been to the temple. I just known devotees in other situations, but I'd never been to the temple. So I asked if I could come and visit the temple and just to see what it's like. So he had met me before, and he said, sure. I said, my idea was just go for a couple of weeks, check it out. So the first day I was there, they took me out on Harinam, chanting Hare Krishna in the street. This was in Waikiki. It's a really degraded area, all kinds of sinful things going on. But I was so amazed that the devotees, we had a place to sit to do Harinam, to chant. And it seemed to me there was this sort of like transcendental bubble around them that was protecting them from all this. And they were singing so beautifully. And I saw people were stopping. And it seemed like they weren't stopping like just curious, not that kind of stopping. But it seemed like they were like stopping involuntarily, like frozen, just like whole families, you know. And then I remembered that the devotees had told me that this sound vibration goes straight to the soul. It doesn't have to go through any kind of intellectual or mental layers. It goes straight to the soul. And I thought, wow, I'm seeing it. That's what's happening. And they had also said, this is the highest welfare work. And for some time I had been wanting to do welfare for humanity, but I didn't know what. I tried different things, but it was not satisfying. But this, I thought, wow, highest welfare work, that's what I want to do. And so I was thinking, okay, this mantra is touching their hearts, touching the soul. And Plus, they were distributing Back to Godhead magazines, a few devotees were. And so people who are more interested, they get the knowledge, they get the philosophy. And I thought, this is it. This is the highest welfare work. And I decided right then, this is how I want to spend the rest of my life. And when we got back to the temple at 10 o'clock at night, there were a couple of brahmacharis shaving their heads. And they asked me if I want to shave my head. And I thought, well, I already had tilak on, I had a dhoti, and I decided this is how I want to spend the rest of my life. So I said, okay. First time I got my head shaved. In the early 70s in ISKCON, there was what was called the library party. It was a special, you could say, elite party of just a few devotees whose remit was to go to professors and librarians and try to sell standing orders of Prabhupada's books. Standing order meant that they were buying all the books that Prabhupada had already published, plus all the books that he would publish in the future. And if we couldn't sell standing orders, then we could sell a set of Chaitanya Charitamrita, a set of Bhagavatams, or individual Gitas, or whatever. So Satsvarup Maharaj very mercifully invited me to join this party at Ratha Yatra 1974 in San Francisco when Srila Prabhupada was there. And later, so then we traveled around the United States. And in early 75, we were in the South, American South. And I met a history professor. We would go into the library of each school and we would select from the course catalog the professors that we thought could be suitable for what we had to do. So this lady was a professor of Southeast Asia. So one of our standard lines was that the culture of Southeast Asia, much of it comes from India. So that's one of the things I told her. And she said, well, that's not the modern thinking now. And I said, what do you mean that's not the modern thinking? I said, you're a history professor, right? Isn't a history professor concerned with facts, with what happened, right? And she said, no. She said, in every period of time, there is some particular professor, prominent professor. He's prominent in the field, and his way of thinking about the situation, that's what everybody else follows. And she said, we're not interested, we're not concerned with facts. And that really stuck in my mind. I was just amazed. I don't think she took a book, I don't remember, but maybe. Anyway, a few weeks later, I was in Atlanta with the rest of the library party, so this was what, February or March 1975, and Prabhupada was there. There were a few hundred devotees there from all over the United States, especially the East. And Satsvarup Maharaj, of course, he had influence because he was a GBC and a sannyasi, and he arranged for us to be able to go on one of the morning walks. Not just anybody could go on a morning walk. It was GBC members, sannyasis, temple presidents, people that were prominent. But he worked it out that one day we got to go on the morning walk. So I don't remember which members of the library party were on the walk. Satsvarup Maharaj, of course, was there. But I do remember Ganesham Prabhu and Mahabhuti Prabhu and me. At least the three of us were there. And somehow or other, Ganesham Prabhu, almost right at the beginning, got into a dialogue with Prabhupada. Now, even at that early stage, Ganesham Prabhu had started becoming sort of prominent in ISKCON. So he was not exactly a big shot yet, but he was going in that direction. Anyhow, everybody knew him. And he got into this dialogue with Srila Prabhupada, and I'm listening to it, and I'm just burning with envy. And I'm thinking, okay, Ghanashyam Prabhu is the biggest distributor on our party. Fine, I understand that. Well, then Mahabhuti Prabhu also chimed in a couple of things. Okay, and he's the second biggest distributor. I understand that. But I'm also going out every day distributing Prabhupada's books to professors and librarians. And I also want to have a dialogue with Prabhupada. So I don't remember, you know, my envy was so great that I don't even remember what Prabhupada was saying. I don't remember the topic or anything. I was just thinking, I want to get into this dialogue. I want to be involved. So then, at one point, Srila Prabhupada said, we simply have to give them the facts. And it just rang a bell in my brain from my experience with that lady, with the historian, that she said they don't care for facts. So without even thinking about what I was doing, just really spontaneously, I just blurted out, but Srila Prabhupada, they say they don't care for facts. Now, you can hear on Morning Walk recordings, you can hear Prabhupada's cane. He's going click, click, click. And then all of a sudden, on this occasion, it was click. And Prabhupada stopped short. His eyes were flashing. And he just looked right at me. And he said, then we do not care for you. I must have jumped about a foot in the air because everybody started laughing. There are all these big GBC men and sannyasis and all kinds of big shots. I was a really insignificant person. Nobody knew who I was or anything. And, you know, everybody's laughing. I thought, this isn't funny. My spiritual master just said he doesn't care for me. It took me, I don't know, probably at least 24 hours to understand that Prabhupada wasn't talking about me, he was talking about the professors. So, anyway, then I concluded from that experience, maybe better just to let Ghanashyam Prabhu have the dialogues with Prabhupada. When Prabhupada did come to Honolulu, when he was lecturing, I don't remember very much of what he was saying, but what I do remember was that in one lecture, there was a brahmachari there named Ananda Das. And Prabhupada said something in his lecture about we should be grateful for modern technology. And Ananda Das let out this big guffaw, you know, really loud laugh in a relatively small room. And Prabhupada stopped and he said, no. He said, do not laugh. He said, of course we should be thankful for modern technology. Otherwise, how could we spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? That made a big impression on me. Another thing is that in that particular temple, the temple president didn't believe in buying boga, which is a whole other story. But in particular, no milk. And I was really attached to milk and milk products, and I was really suffering separation. And I was thinking about it like all day, every day, about how I just wanted some cream cheese or something. And then in the middle of the lecture, I don't remember what the verse was, I don't remember anything except what I do remember is that in the middle of the lecture, Srila Prabhupada started talking about the glories of milk products. And my ears really perked up. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This means Prabhupada knows. He knows what's going on here, that we're being, how do you say, deprived of milk products. And he was going on glorifying milk products. And I thought, that this is great. This is Prabhupada's indirect way of giving a message to the temple president. Apparently the temple president didn't get that message because nothing changed. In 1977, of course, Srila Prabhupada was physically extremely ill and getting worse and worse and worse. And it was becoming more and more apparent that probably he was going to be leaving his body. And so devotees, a lot of devotees were going to Vrindavan to be with Prabhupada. And I went with 2 other devotees from America. We arrived in Vrindavan at Krishna Balaram Mandir in the middle of the night. I don't remember what time, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something, I don't know. And we went immediately to Prabhupada's room. It was dark, it was very quiet, there was nobody there. But we just walked in very quietly. The only person who was there was Bhavananda Maharaj. He was attending to Prabhupada's needs. And he just motioned for us to come in and sit down quietly. So we did that. We sat not too near the bed, but maybe a meter away or something. And then, and Prabhupada, of course this was before the internet, so we didn't get to see so many photographs very quickly, but we did understand that Prabhupada was emaciated, incapacitated. We'd seen photos from London, from his visit to London. And so Prabhupada was lying on his back, apparently asleep. And then Bhavananda Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada, he said very quietly, Srila Prabhupada, these boys have come all the way from America just to be with you. And Srila Prabhupada turned his head just slightly toward us, and he said, oh, thank you very much. How are you? Now the 3 of us were more or less 30 years old and relatively healthy, and we were really embarrassed. We just looked at each other like, you know, how are we? You know, Srila Prabhupada, how are you? We didn't say anything because it felt so awkward, but that's the way we felt. And it was just another illustration of how humble Srila Prabhupada was and how much he cared for other living entities, even in his own very difficult circumstances. As I recall, at the time, the thing that I found most compelling was that Srila Prabhupada was a revolutionary. He was making a real revolution. This was, you know, I came of age in the 60s, right? Revolutionary time in America. But I tried the Timothy Leary revolution, and I didn't last very long with that, a couple of years maximum. And somehow or other, I just never got into the political revolution, the Students for a Democratic Society and that kind of thing. It just never attracted me. Burning buildings and stuff, it wasn't my thing. But this was a real revolution. And this was definitely what I was looking for. Prabhupada was a revolutionary.
Hare Krishna. Just a second, there is one more lecture by Maharaj. I will just play that.
Hare Krishna. When I joined ISKCON, I asked the devotees why they hold their hands up like this during kirtan. And the answer I got was that it's a sign of surrender. It's a sign of openness. I'm open. I'm ready for the mercy. Now that made perfect sense to me. when you see Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada in kirtan, in a photo or in a video, his hands, when he raises his hands, it's always like this, every time. I've never seen that he had his hands like this. Somebody told me that at the beginning of the video clip of the 1974 Rath Yatra, Prabhupada had his hands like this, but quickly it went to this. So even if occasionally there's some other way, but this is normally the way Prabhupada held his hands, with palms more or less facing each other and a little bit up. Also, in any, for any paintings or deities of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai that were commissioned by Srila Prabhupada, their hands are always like this. And Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to this world to show us, to demonstrate how to be devotees. Another thing is that in the mid-70s, Srila Prabhupada instructed Dhananjaya Das to make Gaur Nitai deities in large quantities to be sold on Sankirtan with the books. And Srila Prabhupada specifically instructed him how the hands should be. And it was just like this. So we have that evidence, what Prabhupada told Dhananjaya Prabhu about Gaur Nitai's hands. We have also all the paintings and murtis of Gaur Nitai that were commissioned by Prabhupada. Their hands are always like this. We have Prabhupada's own example in kirtan, in videos and photos, always like this. And these days people talk a lot about body language, the importance of body language. So why is it now it has become sort of like a pandemic all over ISKCON that devotees, during the kirtan, they hold their hands like this? Why like this? What does this mean? This thing, this has meaning. I know the meaning of this. But what does this mean? To me, it means just the opposite. It means, stop, no more mercy, I've had enough. Why is it that the whole movement practically has started doing like this? Why don't we follow the example of Srila Prabhupada and the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and the example of Gaur Nitai and hold our hands like this during kirtan? One of my godbrothers, I think it was Paravita Prabhu, pointed out that if you have your hands down at your sides and you raise them up, where do they naturally go? They go like this. They don't naturally go like this. You have to twist them. So now somebody might say, well, this Mahadyuti Swami, he's got obsessive, what do they call it? Obsessive OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And he's all worked up about some tiny detail. Well, maybe. But Srila Prabhupada was also concerned about details. Not all the time, of course, and not every detail. But it's not that details are not important. In the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada says at one point that Srila Rupa Goswami is dealing here with principles, not details. But then much of the Nectar Devotion is about details. How Krishna looked and what he did and how he interacted with his friends and with Radharani, etc., etc. If you eliminate all details, what do you have? You have the Brahma Jyoti. If you see a beautiful painting, now we lay people who are not artists, we just look at the painting and we say, oh, that's a really beautiful painting. But what we don't know is that the artist has taken time, painstakingly, making every little detail just exactly precise so that the whole picture looks great. So we should be like that. We should be concerned about the details. I also know of one instance related by my godbrother Ekanath Das in Calcutta in the early 70s when Srila Prabhupada walked in the temple room and there was some devotee in the kirtan with his hands behind his back like this. And Prabhupada objected. Prabhupada said, tell him not to do that. I don't know why, but I presume the reason is it looks too casual. You're in front of the deities and you look too casual. Everything has meaning. So therefore, my humble request to all devotees in ISKCON, and especially the leaders, please can we change the tide back to the way it was in the early days of ISKCON, devotees holding their hands like this instead of like this. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So I would like to hand over to His Grace Golokeshwar Prabhu. By the time I will share the PPT as well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vansha kalpatarubhyaksha kripasinduਭ്യശ്ച patitanam pavanam Krishna. Dhanva pranam to all devotees. Thank you for giving me opportunity. I hope I am audible properly.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Well, I am at railway station, so there might be noises also. So I'm sorry for that. So thank you for giving me opportunity. We'll just start to introduce Maharaj. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnagutaleshante Bhakti Vedanta Samnitinam. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. Hare Krishna. So fortunately we got the opportunity to serve Maharaj during his stay at ISKCON Chen from 11th to 16th February, March. So Maharaj came and especially gave his association on Gaur Purnima. So I would like to have this opportunity. As you all know, Maharaj is a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and in the beginning of the movement, when the movement was growing, so he joined in next slide, ISKCON. And there is a very interesting story that Maharaj narrated during the class. Actually, I don't know if he told here. I was didn't hear the initial lecture, but Maharaj was telling how before joining ISKCON, actually he was a part of a group of impersonal meditation, some kind of Buddhist or something, but impersonal meditation. So one day they were having their ashram besides the beach. So one day some devotees came there and they asked them permission to stay. So Maharaj was narrating as the philosophy goes in impersonalism, that everything is one, I am you and you are I. So if you want to stay, that means I only want to stay. Something like that. Maharaj was making a fun of that. So Maharaj allowed them to stay. And Maharaj told, and that was a big mistake. Why? Because Maharaj narrated that in the evening, the devotees used to do kirtan. And here, what Maharaj and others were practicing were impersonal, silent meditation, and they were finding it difficult to concentrate on their meditation because of kirtan going on. So one day, but since Maharaj allowed them to stay, so he didn't, he was tolerating like that, but he didn't like that. So, but he was also within his heart, he was feeling that, no, I am not going to join them like that. Something he was feeling resistant to join kirtan. So then what happened? One day, Maharaj went downstairs in some kind of, we can say, underground cabin, where there were some underground bhajan kutir, we can say. So Maharaj went down there and he was trying to meditate in a silence all alone. So when he started to meditate, that was getting evening, and in the evening the devotees had invited some of the guests, and above on the ground floor they were started doing kirtan. And okay, So Maharaj heard the kirtan little and a little, and then the kirtan started growing more intense, and Maharaj was also getting intense, disturbed, and then finally Maharaj could not tolerate. So he got up from that his seat, and he just forcefully stepping heavily, he came upstairs, and what his plan was to just uh, go into the kirtan, enter into the kirtan, and shout at them, stop, like that. So the moment arrived, Maharaj came, he opened the doors, and he was going to say something, but his hands automatically went off up, and he said, Haribo, like that. So it was amazing. Maharaj could not, means he can't imagine what happened to him, like that, and he started singing with them. How Maharaj was telling that actually this is the power of kirtan, or that Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. So that was a powerful impact, that he could not do anything. Automatically he started dancing with the devotees. They didn't encourage them, nothing like that. And then finally Maharaj realized that yes, this is the thing which I was looking for. So Maharaj also narrated how he got into the association of devotees, and this was the thing which Maharaj narrated in the class. So as on the screen, Maharaj joined in 1971, where he met Srila Prabhupada in 1974. He received the initiation. Next. Yeah. Yeah, next, bro. So as Maharaj was mentioning that he was a part of library party and they were distributing many books. So related to that. So as you heard in the lecture, Maharaj was mentioning that His Holiness Sat Swarup Goswami Maharaj invited him to join the party. Now I will narrate you what happened actually. As you saw in the second lecture, really heavy. When he wants something, means that specific thing should be there in that way only. So I will just tell you some encounters which we had just as Maharaj arrived. So he went to his room, and just then there were some brahmacharis accompanying Maharaj, and I was also there. So he just, as soon as we opened the room, he called the brahmacharis inside. Somebody is disturbing too. Yeah. Okay, so as soon as Maharaj went inside the room, he called the brahmachari inside. And just Maharaj started to say, you see, this is Mayavadi color, the color of the saffron clothes. This is not saffron. You see, why? I don't know why the ISKCON devotees have started wearing this, and he went on. So in the first meeting, first encounter, only Maharaj was very strict and heavy. You know? So then another time, so we move forward. The brahmacharis went, yes, Maharaj will take care like that. And Maharaj got into the room. He saw everything, and Maharaj was very particular. And since I had not previously like expecting some kind of this, so Maharaj had specifically written, his servant has written some items which had to be brought, and in what quantity and which specific brand. So I was not very attentive to that. So he just saw the things. He said, did you receive the message? What quantity I told you to bring? What brand I told you to bring? So Maharaj, I said, Maharaj, this was 100 gram. It was 100 gram? Did you check it? It was 100 gram? So I opened the WhatsApp and I saw it was 250 gram. So then Maharaj said, you know something? You should be attentive actually. You know? That this is simply easy. Even an idiot can read it. So I was blasted in the first meeting only. And then, so in that way, Maharaj was telling me, in this way many things. So finally, after some encounters, Maharaj said, so he was mentioning this. During the initial days, I was traveling with His Holiness Satswarup Goswami Maharaj, and he was very demanding and specific. And you know something? That was the time I actually made my most spiritual advancement. I made the means more and more spiritual advancement. So Maharaj was mentioning that point that we need to be corrected initially to get our services done properly. So in this way, Maharaj shared his mood, and then of course I understood and got all the things, specific things. So Maharaj was then happy, little bit happy. So then next things came. I will also tell. Yeah, Prabhu, next slide. Yeah, he served as temple president in Dallas, Texas in 1976. Yeah, Maharaj didn't mention much of that. In 1983, felt and he focused on, recruiting new devotees. Yeah, Maharaj got into new devotees. Yes. So regarding this, when Maharaj was preaching, so he told me, I was actually, you see, I am wearing white, okay, and I had a saffron shawl. So Maharaj pointed out, why you are wearing two colors? Who you are? Maharaj, I am also like joined as a full-time devotee 3 years back. So Maharaj told, then why are you in white? And why do you have these hairs? So then I started to explain Maharaj that Maharaj, like, we go for college preaching and there is a need of like we don't directly enter. Maharaj was mentioning, I don't know what's this going on. Like when we were there, we used to directly give them Krishna consciousness. That is what is wanted actually, direct Krishna consciousness, nothing different from that. And you and put them in something and try to attract them like Gaur Gopal Das, like that. So I was mentioning, Maharaj, something like that. We invite them and then we start preaching to them. So Maharaj was not so much impressed with this kind of preaching style. So we saw how Maharaj enthusiastically preached direct principles of Krishna consciousness. And he too liked. In that way only he came in Krishna consciousness, right? Yeah, next slide, bro. Yeah, so after that, Maharaj took many leading roles as a temple president and restaurant management, and further. Then after that, from in preaching all over Europe, Russia, and all that, Maharaj was very impressive personality, and he's very sound in philosophy, as we saw in the lectures. And so next, in I think 2022, Maharaj came in near in Mumbai, Mira Road Temple. He lives in Mira Road Temple, like that. The next slide, bro. I think this is the last, maybe. No, something. Yeah. So Maharaj continues to travel and preach all over. So now, yes, yes. So Maharaj was mentioning some things in his lecture, which was, this Maharaj narrated this pastime in the lecture. So Maharaj was mentioning some points in his lecture, how devotional, one devotee asked, like, Maharaj, in the early days, we used to feel much motivation to chant or do kirtan, but now we don't feel that kind of motivation. So Maharaj was mentioning, like, some things he said. Then at the last he said, you see, devotional service is not based on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Devotional service is based on discipline. You have to do it because you know it is the right thing. So this is the actual thing which we need to follow. That was very like very important point which I got to hear from Maharaj. Yeah. We are motivated or not, that doesn't matter because it comes and goes. But we have to keep the discipline. That is what is needed in devotional service to progress. You know. Then another encounters, another another time I went inside. So I did Dandvat Pranam to Maharaj. So Maharaj just then pointed out, what is this way of Dandvat? Do you know what is Dandvat? So I told Maharaj like this. Then, no, why do you keep your hands back? So Maharaj himself laid on the ground to show me how to do Dandvat. And he told, you have to put your hands outstretched like this. Pura haath सीधा करके रखना है. Outstretched. Not like this. Itna, what is this? So his servant was joking, Maharaj, this is a kind of pose for push-ups. So easily they can get up like that. So Maharaj, this is not Dandvat. Dandvat means like a stick, you know, you have to extend your hands properly. Maharaj himself got down to tell how we should do Dandvat. Then this was the case with me. I understood. Then another brahmachari devotee came. Then he also did like this. So Maharaj again pointed out, what is this? This is not Dandvat. Maharaj again himself got down to show him, this is Dandvat. This is, you see how I'm doing. But that devotee didn't understood what was Maharaj telling. He again did like this, means यहाँ पे इतना ऐसा. So मुझसे बोला, महाराज क्या बोल रहे, कि क्या कर रहा हुआ, गलत क्या कर रहा हुआ. मैंने बोला, प्रभु जी हाथ आगे करिए, हाथ आगे करिए, इस तरीके से. So you see, Maharaj was very specific, and in the lecture also you saw that point, that doing hands like this or like this. So Maharaj also mentioned in the lecture also, we have to do hands like this in the brahmachari class. This is like I am ready for the mercy, and this is like stop. I had enough, no more mercy. So in that way, Maharaj instructed us. And another thing, Maharaj was mentioning how Srila Prabhupada, actually Maharaj got little sick during the Gaur Purnima festival, and unfortunately we could not hear from him on that day in Gaur Purnima. So Maharaj was very upset, feeling very upset that this is Gaur Purnima day and I am little sick, and Maharaj was taking rest. And Maharaj was mentioning like one incident when Srila Prabhupada was so sick, and he told that Srila Prabhupada is coming to Hawaii temple from somewhere, and he will be attending no one, no meetings, no darshans, no classes, nothing. He will just take rest like that. So all the devotees knew Srila Prabhupada came into the room, but nobody was like disturbing Srila Prabhupada, and they were not expecting. But next day in the morning program, during the darshan aarti, the door was connected like in Ujjain temple we have a bridge connecting the ashram and the temple. So something there was like something kind of bridge from Srila Prabhupada's room to temple directly. So during the darshan aarti, that door opened. Oh, everybody was curious what was happening. They were not expecting Srila Prabhupada will come. And Srila Prabhupada came down. How he came down, Srila Prabhupada was so sick that two devotees were by his side, and holding him, helping him to walk. Then Srila Prabhupada came down to the temple. He offered his 3 altars were there. He offered his dandvat to each altar, and lying down completely. And he was so sick actually that he could not get up by himself. The 2 servants had to pull him up. So he was so sick like that. And then he did the darshan. Then everybody thought that, yes, now Srila Prabhupada will go back. And Srila Prabhupada said, now we can have Guru Puja. So they were again shocked. Then they did Guru Puja. Then they thought that Srila Prabhupada will now leave. Then they said, now there will be class. So everybody was like amazed in shock how Srila Prabhupada will give class. And Srila Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasana, he started to give class. And even though microphone was very close to his mouth, he was so weak, his voice was so weak that they could hardly hear anything. So in that way, Maharaj was mentioning like Srila Prabhupada was so strong in his old age also. He was so extending. But like out of humility, Maharaj was mentioning like, I cannot do like that. I have tried, but I cannot just extend. I was wondering like how strong Srila Prabhupada was traveling in this age and doing all the things for the welfare of the devotees. So much Srila Prabhupada had sacrificed. Maharaj was so emotional when he was sharing like this. I could see from his eyes how much they appreciate, how much they love Srila Prabhupada. And in that way, and another thing, the last thing which I'll share, like Maharaj was, I saw in his disciple also, and Maharaj himself also, whenever there was like a gap, a kind of gap, you see that like you have to wait a little. Like Maharaj was sick, so I put thermometer inside. So we had to wait 2 minutes. So Maharaj immediately said, chant Hare Krishna. And whenever some gap was there, Maharaj said, chant Hare Krishna. Whenever Maharaj was coming downstairs, he chanted Hare Krishna. So no time to waste, just Kirtaniya Sadahari. So Maharaj taught by his example, like always we should chant, we should not waste our time. It's not necessary that only on beats we will chant. We should be always chanting Hare Krishna. We should not give a gap to this. So in this way, these are some of the very few qualities, divine qualities, which I could see from my limited perception. Maharaj has many, many wonderful qualities. I missed to ask many questions to Maharaj because he was little strict. So I was little fearful to spend a lot of time with him. But yeah, next time if Maharaj comes, we'll try to serve him and ask many questions, take guidance from him. Many wonderful things to be asked from Maharaj. So thank you very much, devotees, for giving me this opportunity. Please pray for me that I can also take inspiration from all these wonderful disciples of Srila Prabhupada, which are giving their association even in this old age to inspire us how we should dedicate our lives. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. His Holiness Mahadyuti Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samved Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.